Capcom dropped the newest Resident Evil title at the Summer Game Fest showcase this past week. They wasted no time to show it off to their fans, as it was an anticipated await for the remake of Code Veronica. It was the first trailer shown in the 2-hour span of the show. So, the 4-minute trailer is filled to the brim with details that you may have missed. Let's get into it and see if you missed any. The trailer begins with a car driving down the street in Paris, France. On the right side of the street is a cafe called Café du Parapluie, which translates from French to English as Cafe Umbrella. The car that's driving down the street has a license plate with the numbers 1126. This is a reference to a puzzle in the original Code Veronica game in the Rockfort training facility. You can find these numbers in the painting of a skeleton on the wall, hidden in the bottom of the painting. The scene shifts and we have the point of view of Claire Redfield. She's holding up the address in French to an apartment that translates in English to 12 dead-end chestnut trees. Now, the old woman that opens the door and addresses Claire says, "Oui, yes," but to me, it eerily sounds like she says, "Oui, Pierres?"
Oui, yes. So you...
Because in a few more moments she says Paris, and it sounds almost the same way that she pronounced yes or Pierres in her first two words. When she says "Oui, Pierres," this could be obviously a reference to Chris Redfield and his partner later in the series in Resident Evil 6 as Piers Nevins. She references Chris as being a weird brother to Claire, which might imply the odd sibling relationship that will come later in the game between Alexia and Alfred Ashford. More so, Chris's apartment is filled with more details. The older woman that's walking Claire around panders the audience by saying a boulder has run through the apartment. This is obviously a reference to Resident Evil 5, when Chris punches a boulder to push it into the lava to block Wesker. But this pandering distracts you from the hidden details that are in the apartment. On the back side, towards the window in the kitchen, there is a green herb sitting near the kitchen sink, as well as the Mr. Raccoon trophy that changes depending on the shot, either next to the green herb at the kitchen sink or on the kitchen table. More obviously, Chris has left the place littered with his weights and steroid pills, which might give us more of an inclination on how Chris ends up as muscular as he does in Resident Evil 5. It makes me think they're willing and taking the time to develop Chris into a more dynamic character. There is a Zippo lighter on the table which Claire starts the game out with. This could be telling us that she originally got the Zippo lighter from her brother Chris, just like her iconic jacket. The box of biscuit cookies to me looks suspiciously like something that we saw in the Rhodes Hill Care Center lounge in Requiem, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. Now, in there is a reference to Veronica being the next game in the series. Now that Claire's been captured, the trailer shifts into glimpses of what's to come in the remake. In front of the guard tower, there is a shadow of an orange-haired individual. It's very faint, but it is distinguishably Steve Burnside. Burnside is one of the most iconic characters from this game. Then there's a glimpse at either the 3D printer that we see later in the game that helps us make the duplicate of the hawk emblem in the prison, or it references the security box in which you have to place all of your items in the prison, otherwise it yells at you. Moving on, the dying or dead dragonfly next to all the ants is from the exact cutscene in the original game where we learn about Alfred and Alexia Ashford. The twins show off their sadistic nature and pull off the wings of the dragonfly and feed it alive to their ants in their ant farm. The next thing that stuck out to me that you might have missed is the slumped over man, presumably dead. This could be a zombie or not, but he's wearing a very distinguishable uniform. It is very recognizable to be what the Germans wore during World War II and the Nazis. Alexei and Alfred Ashford were originally, in the concept of the game, supposed to be descended from a Nazi who fled the war and started a base in Antarctica. This didn't make it to the final game, as the Ashford family were reworked into being British aristocrats. But this could be that they are reworking the Ashford twins and the Ashford family line into being something as evil and sadistic as Nazis. In this next glimpse, we see Alfred Ashford, who looks more like the concept art for the original Code Veronica than what made it to the final game. He's wearing white gloves, but he does not wear this in the original. Another glimpse shows us the gold Lugers that Steve gets during the puzzle in a game that he gives to Claire. One detail that's changed about these, though, is that they now have the Ashford family crest on them. Now, for the final details of the trailer. Claire's choker that she wore now appears to be a security necklace, probably due to her being a prisoner. It reminds me a lot of what she wore and was tracked with in Revelations 2. Lastly, she's looking down at the floor at a bottle of pills. This could be the hemostatic pill bottle that she finds and gives to Rodrigo to help him for his injury in the prison. He gives her a lockpick in return for this. Did you notice all of these details? Some of the Easter eggs were more noticeable than others, like Chris and his boulder. When I saw the Summer Game Fest showcase open with the trailer for Code Veronica Remake, I was so excited. I literally jumped up and down. But I didn't notice it was Code Veronica right away. So it made me want to go back and look for all the hidden details that I may have missed. And there were a lot of things that I missed. Did you notice any that I didn't? What are you most excited for in this remake? I can't wait to see Wesker again, and I'm really excited to see how they further develop Claire and Chris and their relationship. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was so nice to have you here. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!